This is the Demystifying Crypto and Building Wealth podcast.
I knew that would be worth trillions.
That had never existed in human history.
There's been massive opportunities.
The #1 podcast to help you understand and get insights into the crypto world, blockchain technology, wealth building, and financial investing. Now, here's your host, Tico Tawari, the world's #1 most trusted cryptocurrency analyst and Wall Street veteran with decades of experience in the financial space.
Hello, friends, and welcome. Big T here with a very, very important update, and looking forward to having everybody come online here and talk about what I'm seeing and what I expect to happen next. Hello and good morning, good afternoon. It is wonderful to be here. Sorry for not being able to be online last week. I was traveling and just was not able to be available. Okay, let's see who we have. Thank you. It's good to be here. It's good to be back. How's everybody handling the volatility? I mean, September, boy, it's always a fun month in the crypto market. I was looking back actually on previous Septembers in a halving year. They're pretty much all just absolutely ugly. It's a time where a lot of people lose a lot of hope in the asset class, and they really make some terrible, terrible decisions. I was taking a look back in 2016 when I first got involved in crypto, and 2016 was very similar to this year. You know, we had this big rally. We had started buying, I'd started recommending Bitcoin around 400, 465. It went to 385, just kept recommending it. And then it rallied up to 775 in June of 2016, and then it just fell off a cliff. I mean, it was awful. We went down to $540. I think, let's see, what was the low? We went back to 400 and change from the high that we hit in June of 2016 to the low that we hit in July of 2016. We dropped 40%. Think about that. We dropped 40% in a bull market in a halving year at a time when the asset Bitcoin was just so, considered so out there. I want you to know what that was like to navigate for me and my team and for my early readers. You know, it was really, really, really difficult. I don't know if anybody here on this IG Live was with me during that period of time, but you know, it would have been normal to think, you know, oh my God, what does this guy put me into? What is this guy recommending here? How can something be that volatile? So we have seen volatility tamp down from halving to halving to halving. 2016 was definitely, really, really nuts. And then, if we look at the last halving period in 2020, if we look at September, so at September 1st, 2020, Bitcoin was trading at $12,000. But by September 8th, 2020, Bitcoin was trading at $9,800. So September was just not fun. And if we look at this year, we had this peak price of around $74,000 earlier in the year, and since then we've been as low as 49,000 and change, trading at 59,000 and change right now. If we look at September, I'm just going to move my camera a little bit so I can see my screen. So, September has just been, really bloody awful. We've gone from a high of above 60, 64 and change down to 52 and change. So the reason why I'm bringing all this up is that there's nothing happening that I haven't seen before. There's nothing happening that the market hasn't seen before. This is the nature of the asset. And so our job is just to understand the nature of the asset. It's like, you have certain relationships with certain people. Could be your children, could be a spouse, could be a business partner. And you're just like, oh, that's just Jim. Or that's just Mary. That's just their personality, right? Doesn't mean you're going to throw them out. It's just that's their personality, and we learn how to deal with the personalities of the people in our lives, and we understand their extremes and their lows. And the same is true of Bitcoin. And so the thing to hold on to with Bitcoin is to understand its finite nature, number one, right? Its core design. its finite nature. There can never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. The incentives are aligned in Bitcoin, where if somebody tries to change the amount of new Bitcoin that is issued, the value of Bitcoin would collapse. So it requires the consensus of the majority of node operators and miners in order to make a change to the code. And because we're rational beings and we move in the direction of our own self-interest, we are not going to make a decision that's going to destroy the value of our asset. So I put a great deal of faith in the fact that there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin because of the way that the incentives are aligned within the creation of Bitcoin itself. So if it is a truly hard asset, it's digital scarcity, and we are moving more and more into a digital realm, and there is no competitor to Bitcoin. And that wasn't true back in 2016. There were many, many competitors to Bitcoin. Today, there are no competitors to Bitcoin for what it does, for its use case, its application, which for me is a leak-proof store of value that can travel through time in a way where it does not leak value. What do I mean by that? Well, if you want to take money and move it through time and space, there's only really a few ways you can do it. You can buy the S&P 500, you can buy gold, you can buy property, you can buy art, and you can buy collectibles. There are problems moving those objects of value through time. And you have cash. So cash gets killed by inflation. Stocks, yes, do well over time. The only issue with stocks is there's a constant leak in value because companies are constantly issuing new shares. But generally speaking, over time, if you look at the S&P 500, money travels fairly well through time through the S&P 500. You're going to average about 10% a year, based on a 20-year holding period. Real estate, it depends. If there's a war, if there's a change in taxes, you have major American cities that at one point they were considered absolute blue chip places to put money into real estate. Pittsburgh comes to mind. It was essentially the industrial capital of the United States. Same thing with Detroit. This was an area. This was the heartbeat of America, where just the whole auto industry was based out of there. But times change. And real estate in both of those cities has just collapsed dramatically from where they were years ago. So I'm not suggesting that everybody is going to put their money in Bitcoin, but what I am suggesting is that a certain percentage of the world's wealth is going to get carved off and put into Bitcoin. Now, because Bitcoin is a finite asset, you don't need much of the world's wealth to make that decision to allocate to Bitcoin in order for Bitcoin to go exponentially higher. At a minimum, Bitcoin should be priced at the aggregate value of gold. At a minimum, let me say it again, at a minimum, Bitcoin should be priced at the aggregate value of gold. In my opinion, it is far more valuable than gold. If Bitcoin were priced at the aggregate value of gold right now, it would be approximately $700,000 per Bitcoin. Now, how long will that take to come about? I think by the end of the decade. That's what I think. How does that come about? The only way, in my opinion, I shouldn't say the only way that I can see right now that Bitcoin gets to that size is that you need adoption by the traditional financial system. The traditional financial system are the shepherds of capital in the world that we live in. And that has just continued. Capital has concentrated. I've been in capital markets for over 30 years, and I have just seen the continued concentration of capital from individuals to institutions. And so Bitcoin, I don't believe, can get to $700,000 a Bitcoin without institutional adoption. I've always believed that and always said that. A lot of people haven't agreed with me on that and haven't liked that point of view or that perspective. Nonetheless, that's the road that takes Bitcoin to that price, in my opinion. We are at the doorstep of that adoption cycle. If you are selling Bitcoin here, I believe you are making one of the most fundamental errors in asset valuation, in the history of asset valuation. I believe that if you are selling your Bitcoin here 3, 4, 5 years from now, when you look back on it, the level of regret that you will experience is something that will haunt you and plague you all the way to the grave. There are just some decisions that, to me, are so obvious, and owning Bitcoin and owning it for the long term and leaving it alone is, to me, the most obvious investment decision anyone can make. Now, yes, people will say, yeah, but what's the point of having this thing that grows in value that I can't use? My point has always been, at some point, credit markets will grow up around this asset. Lending platforms that are credible will grow up around this asset. At some point, we will have options traded on this asset. So when you have an options market traded on this asset, you can just sell options against a portion of your Bitcoin position, let's say 30% out of the money calls, and you can start generating income based on your Bitcoin. Now, we're not there yet, but the pathway is in front of us. We will be there. So once options start trading, guess what? All the options market makers are going to need to own some Bitcoin in order to write options contracts against. So rather than trying to figure out the exact day that all of that is going to happen, which I can't. I can guess on those days, but I can't give you the exact date. Just knowing that this adoption cycle in Bitcoin is unfolding and will unfold in this direction is all the knowledge you or I need to make truckloads of money from Bitcoin. And where Bitcoin goes, so goes the altcoin market. And that brings me to the thrust of what I want to talk about today. There is some new research that I'm putting together about a series of 3 catalysts that I see that the rest of the market is not following. Now, I write about this at tawariresearchgroup.com. If you are not yet a member of my free e-letter, please go to tawariresearchgroup.com. I write a free e-letter there. It goes out 3 times a week, where I talk about the crypto markets. Now, there is something that I call the convergence that is happening right now. These are 3 massive catalysts that I believe will create havoc and panic in the stock, not in the stock market, sorry, in the crypto market. It's going to remake the crypto market. Every market that I've been a part of in this space, the leadership profiles constantly get remade. And what happens is we go from one market to the next. You have people investing in what was in the leadership of the previous bull market. Now, the same thing happens in the stock market, but not to such a rapid degree, because in the crypto markets, many of the applications of blockchain technology are happening for the very first time. There's very little happening for the very first time in the stock market, but in the crypto market, it happens all the time. So I want to talk to you about how this has played out in the past. So in 2016, I recommend Bitcoin. Back then, the coins that were really booming were all the coins that were trying to supplant Bitcoin. And so these were called privacy coins. So you had things like Dash, Monero, a slew of other coins, which we recommended. And they did incredibly well. But that's where the market was focused on. They said, okay, yeah, we understand Bitcoin, but everybody was trying to find the next better Bitcoin. And so originally people didn't understand that Ethereum wasn't Bitcoin, and they would call it the Bitcoin competitor. And I'd get really mad and I'd say, no. Ethereum is great and it's going to go up, but it has nothing to do with Bitcoin. But that would take a few years for people to understand. So the things that did well were privacy coins and Bitcoin. And then, as we went into the bear market in 2018, I realized that Bitcoin was winning that privacy coin battle. That there really wasn't anybody in, well, not privacy coin, but was winning the battle of the store of value, of long-term value coin, that it wasn't going to be these other coins. We made good money trading those other coins, but it was Bitcoin that was going to survive. And we didn't know that originally in 2016. Remember, there was Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Diamond. So as we went into 2018, what I realized was that the next bull market was not going to be centered around privacy coins. The next bull market was going to be centered around what I call L1s. And these were new blockchains where development could take place. So, we'd already seen a rally in Ethereum, but I knew Ethereum was going to rally in the next run. Then I was looking at coins like Cardano, Binance, and then I was also looking at oracles, and I was looking at Link, and I knew that in order for the next stage of development to take place with smart contracts, you needed a trusted source of information that was delivered in a distributed way that couldn't be hacked, and that was an oracle, and that's when I discovered Link, L-I-N-K, and recommended it. And so again, we had the bull market, and I was right. The leadership market completely changed. The coins in the top 10 and top 20, coins that had just dominated back in 2015 and 2016, were completely gone, and you had new leadership. Then in 2020, you had the rise of decentralized finance. Again, I looked at this and I said, okay, we're going to see a whole new remake of the top 10 and top 20 coins. That's when I recommended Uniswap, Luna, Stacks. These coins had massive, massive moves. So now here we are in 2024, and we are on the verge of another complete remake of the leadership coins in crypto. And I'm going to talk about how that's going to play out next week. I've got a special event coming up next week, September 25th, Wednesday, September 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you want to get an invite to that, I want you to go to tawariresearchgroup.com. Once you join that list, you're automatically on the list to get an invite to my event next week. I'm calling it the Convergence. There are 3 catalysts that are coming together that I believe will remake the crypto market in a way that we have never seen before, because we have never seen this much money come into the crypto market before. Every time the crypto market was remade in the past, it was generally either individuals, people that already made a lot of money in crypto that were leading areas, kind of like leading minds in the space. Then we had some family office money come in, and we had some hedge fund money come in. The next round of capital that I'm seeing coming in will dwarf any round of capital that we've ever had before. But it is not going to be allocated to the entire broad market. Yes, a lot will go into Bitcoin, a lot will go into Ethereum and some other coins that I cover. But in terms of where I believe a massive chunk of that capital is going to come into, it's not going to go into the top 10 or top 20 coins, not most of it. It's going to go into a subsector of coins that very few people know about, very few people are even aware of, very few people outside of crypto native people even know exist. And so next week, I'm going to take the time, I'm going to pull back the curtain on all my research and explain exactly how that's going to unfold. Now, whether you end up working with me or not, or you just want to show up and hear what I have to say so you can position yourself correctly, that's fine. I'll be giving away a coin for free, as I usually do at those types of events. But I strongly urge that you do attend so you can have a mental framework for how to be positioned as the convergence starts to unfold. And it's already beginning to unfold. And again, next week, I'll explain exactly how it works. Okay, I had a couple of people say that they're not getting some responses from me, or they're not getting some emails, so please just contact customer service and ping them, and they will get back to you. They're usually very, very good at returning emails, usually within 48 hours. So all of my staff are in the United States. I don't outsource any customer service, so it's all English speaking, and obviously I don't have 300 people to answer the phone, but generally within 24 to 48 hours they will get back to you. Okay, I have a question. What are you wearing on that bund strap? Okay, this is a Hanhart 417 ES from 1954. They only made 500 of them, and I was very lucky to get one from a German watch dealer. This was a watch that was worn by Steve McQueen. Not this particular one, but he was a huge fan of this watch, managed to secure it, and this was, according to what I've read, this was one of Steve McQueen's favorite watches to wear, and I love it. It's great. Question is, how can we watch this again? Well, when I post this on IG Live, you'll be able to watch it on IG Live. Can I recommend a nice woman's watch? That's a big question. I think Cartier makes wonderful women's watches. I think any 36 millimeter or 31 millimeter Datejust from Rolex is lovely. It all depends upon the woman's wrist size. The question is, am I feeling good about a rate cut today? Yeah, I would be shocked if we did not get a rate cut. I think we get at least 25 bips. 50 basis points, I know the market is looking for 50 basis points, and if they don't get it, they're going to cry in their beer and throw a tantrum, but I don't know if he's going to come with 50 basis points. 50 basis points would worry me that he's really concerned about the economy. I think 25 basis points it sends the right tone to the market. Again, the market won't like that. It'll, piss its pants and throw a tantrum and pull up its diaper and smear its poop against the wall. Not to be graphic, but that sometimes, I look at my 6-month-old and I'm like, okay, this little kid is like the stock market, right? For no reason. 1 minute he's happy, everything's great. Next minute, tears and everything is awful. I'm like, buddy, what happened? And so, the stock market is very much like that. So, if that happens, then so be it. If they decide to sell off risk assets, I'll be there buying them, whether that's the S&P 500 or Bitcoin. Looking at the charts on Bitcoin, we've got very good support. The real good areas of support here on BTC are, I'm just pulling up the chart here, are 55K. There's very good support there. Next level of support is 50. I don't think we'd break 50 if on some, terrible news. Could we see 40K? We could, but I think that's a really, really low probability event. For me, I'm going to be a buyer at 55. I'll be a buyer at 50 if we see it get that low. And again, just remember, September's a crummy month for crypto in general, but it's a great month for us. There's a reason why I generally do my events during awful market periods, because that's when the prices are cheap. Okay, if I just want to do a cash grab, I would just do newsletter launches when the market's running and gunning. I would sell probably 50 to 100% more newsletters by doing it during that period of time. I'm not here to maximize revenue. I'm here to add value at scale in the best way that I know how, period. Because I have the long-term belief that if I can add value to my readers to the very best of my ability over time, as more value accrues to my readers, value will naturally accrue to me. It's a belief system that I put my faith into for years, and it has worked again and again and again and again. If I put my readers first, then value ultimately accrues to me. And when I come to my readers, when the markets look bloody horrible, I'm actually putting my readers first, because that's when you're going to get the best prices. The time to be bullish is when everyone else is bearish, when everyone else is afraid, when everyone else is scared. So So that's why I come during these terrible times. Question is about the altcoins that I've recommended in Big T's crypto income. Yes, they will be fine. There are certain segments of the market that will be absolutely fine and others that won't. So of course, I'm going to make sure that we're positioned appropriately across my different newsletters, given this change of leadership that I see coming forward. So again, if you feel fear, if you feel uncertainty, that's the time to be bullish. If you feel joy, euphoria, certainty, that's the time to be a bit bearish. That's the time to really question whether your emotions are guiding you in the right direction. And I know that's hard to do. I know that's hard to do. If you want to have a shot at transforming your financial life, on small investments without putting your current lifestyle at risk, you have to learn how to put money into play when it's not comfortable. It's the only way that I've learned how to really transform my financial life and my readers' financial life in a way that can move the needle on their life without them having to take massive, out of control risks. But there's a cost for that. And that cost is that emotional uncomfortability that just, I'm not immune to it. I'm human, just like you. But I've had to train myself and say, listen, this is difficult. This is painful. This is hard. I remember in 2019 getting in front of the camera, and Bitcoin had gone from 20 grand to 3,500. And I looked at the research, and I knew that adoption was going to increase. But emotionally, I was freaking out. I was down millions and millions of dollars. I wanted to hide under my desk, suck my thumb, and never see the light of day again. That's the way that I felt. But I realized that feeling, I had to do the opposite of that feeling if I wanted a chance at making transformational gains, not just for myself, but also for my readers. And I did a video, I got in front of the camera, and I said, look, I'm going to actually do something that's probably one of the hardest things to do in the world. Buy Bitcoin here and just keep buying it and keep dollar cost averaging into it. And it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel awful. You're going to think you're crazy, but it's the right decision. It's never easy doing the right thing in markets. It's always hard. If it's easy, you're probably on the wrong track. If it's hard, you're probably on the right track. But training yourself to get to that point, it's like lifting weights. It's really hard and really painful. And hopefully I'm helping you develop that muscle, develop that way of being able to look at your emotional responses and choose a different action instead of the response that your emotions are telling you to take. Friends, I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I want you to always remember, let the game come to you.
So that concludes today's episode. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. You can find the show notes on www.tikatiwari.com. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with others, talk about it on social media, and leave a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss another episode. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.